our next talk is nature-based stormwater solutions for the city of Oaks. If you're new to the area, you may not know Raleigh is the city of Oaks. And I also want to point out our 2025 shirt is some unusual oaks, and we have on the back the Arboretum in the city of Oaks, because we love that we're here in a plant-loving city. So we've got Dori, Rathmell, Heather, Dutra, and Neal Wisenbaker here to talk about these stormwater solutions. Raleigh is really taking this seriously, and it's an important issue. We don't always hear about how important and how difficult it can be as homeowners to deal with stormwater. So please welcome all of our guests from the city of Raleigh talking about stormwater solutions.
Hi, everyone. We are so happy to be here. And yes, all of us came because what a great crowd. We have a lot of different programs to talk about. It's a little bit of a switch up from Adrian's presentation. We will have a lot of plants, don't worry. Neal will cover that, but we're kind of zooming out to a bigger picture of the city of Raleigh, what we're doing, and yeah, we'll get started. So I'm Heather Dutra. We wanted to have a little icebreaker with y'all, let y'all know us personally. We are plant people. We truly, authentically love plants. We have since we were very young. We were talking earlier about our first connections with plants. I love nature parks. My mom did not love when I would surprise her with those fuzzy caterpillars, probably Eastern tent caterpillars, but I loved them at the time. She did not. Dori was a budding environmental educator at a young age, teaching her brother about beautiful daffodils in their family garden. And Neal, you know, he couldn't find one quite as far back as we did, but he did feature his lovely daughter, Izzy, who's now 17 years old, and they would bond over their blueberry bushes. So that's just a little bit about us. Our enthusiasm for plants has only grown since, and we are excited to share with you about Green Stormwater Infrastructure. We will explain what that is if you are not aware. We want to talk to you about how plants and GSI benefit us and how the city of Raleigh is utilizing these nature-based systems to address some critical community concerns. We want to inspire you that we together can help to protect North Carolina's unique natural heritage and bring more people together with plants. And then also, we have a lot of resources and programs and incentives for you that live in Raleigh and in and around Raleigh, and even y'all far away in Zoom. If you're in different cities or towns, I'm sure your towns also have green stormwater infrastructure. You may just not be as aware of it, but please learn from what we're doing, and we would love to learn from you too. All right, so we are very lucky. City of Raleigh is an organization that cares about sustainability. We care about sustainable growth. We are the second most populous city in the state of North Carolina, and so we have development pressure. Just last year in the city of Raleigh, we had 17,000 people move into our city. So we have an increasing population, and we know we have to provide for those people that love everything that we do about this state, but we want to do that responsibly and with resiliency. And so these are just a couple of our commitments. I want to talk about a few of them. The Community Climate Action Plan. I think all of y'all are aware of the intensifying and more frequent rain events we've had. We have heat island impacts from the rising temperatures. And so just know that the initiatives that we're talking about today are helping be a tool in that toolbox to help address some of those climate issues. We are a biophilic city, and if that's a new word for you, it was for me as well. It just references humans' innate affinity for the natural world. And we are committed as our city, as part of this international network of cities, to ensure that our community members have access to natural spaces, and we believe we have a moral obligation to protect and support our global ecosystem. So very proud to be part of that. And then also, specific to what we're talking about today, we have a policy that's internal, the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Policy. This is completely voluntary. Raleigh has not been told that we have to use green stormwater infrastructure. We are doing that because it's the right thing to do. And we are wanting to lead by example. We want to show our community that we believe so much in it that we're investing our funding in it. And we hope that you're inspired by what you're seeing on the public landscape so that you and other private developers can bring some of this into your landscapes as well. So we require that all of our city-led development, whether that's a park being developed or a building being built, if it disturbs land, they must evaluate for the use of these nature-based systems early in design, and we are seeing more and more projects incorporating GSI as a result of that. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this concept of green stormwater infrastructure, we're basically trying to take what nature does on its own and reintroduce that into the built environment. I want to say first and foremost, conservation is the best first step. We do not want to be cutting down forests and building expensive engineered devices, but if you have an already built environment and we can retrofit in some of these GSI, that's great. If we're developing and we can incorporate it early on in design, that's what we want to do. So conservation first, but second best, we want to try to mimic those natural processes in these devices to store and absorb stormwater. So you can see if it was natural land, forest land, you would have approximately 50% of that stormwater runoff infiltrating into the ground. And why is that important? Because that recharges our groundwater supplies, it filters that water as it goes down, it recharges our streams in a healthy way, and it provides all the things that nature has worked very long to, perfect. When you have a built environment, the more and more built environment you have, and you have more impervious surface, or those hard surfaces like rooftops and sidewalks and parking lots that water cannot infiltrate into, let's say we have a 75% to 100% built environment. You have, instead of 50% infiltration, you have about 10% infiltration. And instead of, 15% infiltration, instead of 10% runoff in a natural landscape over the surface, you have 55% runoff. So you can imagine with our storm events, that is a serious increase and has very detrimental effects. So GSI, you can see it can be green with plants. It doesn't have to. All we want to do is really absorb and infiltrate that water at the source, close as possible, and again, mimic this natural process. Okay, is everyone? All right, great. So I won't stay too long on this because this is depressing. But this is a reality. These pictures are from Raleigh, from the Neuse River. This was just on August 15th. We have these flash floods, and this is normal. This is a typical stream in Raleigh, unfortunately. And you can see the water is so flashy that it will continue to incise, go deeper, and it'll go wider. And you see there are structures nearby, there are animals that are impacted. This is not what we want. Fish kills are caused by water quality impacts, so when that stormwater runs across the surface, it picks up all the pollution as well. And that in hot weather can cause algal blooms, it can suck up all the oxygen in the water, and we'll have huge mortality like this. All right, this is nicer. So these are examples of green stormwater infrastructure, and you can see we pretty much have a type of GSI that can fit in any landscape. So rain barrels and cisterns, they're wonderful. Did y'all know that rainwater is nitrogen rich? So basically, when you are capturing runoff, you have free fertilizer in your water. And so for gardeners, this is wonderful. So rain barrels are just smaller versions of cisterns or vice versa. Cisterns are typically minimum 250 gallons. They can go 10,000 gallons, much larger. You can use a pressurized water pump with cisterns, so we like that instead of maybe gravity fed. But either way, that's a great way to capture some of that runoff. And for the larger ones, we have a intentional drip about halfway called the passive drawdown. So we talked about infiltrating, right? So that water will slowly drip into the ground between storm events, so you have that capacity to capture that storm event. Because if you keep your rain barrels and your cisterns full, they're not really working for anybody as far as water quality and volume. So we want to use that water. Constructed wetlands, pretty self-explanatory. Neal and Dori will show some great pictures of that. Green roof also, it's like a planted sponge on the top of your roof. Rain gardens and bioretentions, they are probably our most popular option of GSI in Raleigh. Bioretentions are just typically a little bit more engineered than a rain garden, but Dori will share some smaller residential size rain gardens that are very easy to put in your own yard. Permeable pavement, we talked about that. Basically, it has that gravel layer underneath for storage and infiltration. It has void spaces in the pavers, so the gravel there will allow that water to infiltrate. So you can really run a hose and it just goes shoop, right into the ground. And it's very beautiful. And then I wanted to show this suspended pavement system. This is really cool if you love trees as well in an urban environment. So you might just see trees at the surface, but that stormwater can go into that device, and there's structures that prevent the soil from being compacted. So not only does it have storage space for water, filter that water for cleanliness, but the tree roots have a lot more space, and you get much healthier trees in your urban environment too. So that's pretty cool. Wanted to touch briefly and show some plant pictures. On the subsurface gravel wetland, it's an innovative device. It's actually being studied at the Walnut Creek Wetland Park by NC State University. But you see it is kind of a blend between a rain garden or a bioretention and a wetland. So it can support wetland plants, but it doesn't have those permanent pools on the top. So it has a clay liner that makes it waterproof. Then you have a gravel layer about 2 feet deep for our particular practice here at Walnut Creek Wetland Park. And chemical processes help clean that water as that water is held in the gravel layer. But the plant roots can actually reach water right under the surface of the soil. So it's kind of neat. You can have great diversity. We have cardinal flower, Monarda bee balm, swamp rose mallow, milkweed, black-eyed Susans. Neal, I hope I'm getting all these right. Horseweed. So anyway, Neal actually got this picture of this monarch laying eggs in this device. So we just love the diversity. So it's not just about stormwater, although we love stormwater. You know, there's a lot of air quality benefits. You see this jogger. This is right by the greenway. So the wellness that we all feel when we're near plants, we want to bring more of that into our environment. The aesthetics, I think, is beautiful. This changes over the seasons. And obviously the habitat. And then we are right next to a school and a community center for this as well. So great educational opportunity, as Adrian talked about, connecting children with these devices in nature. I tried to make the tie, guys. City of Raleigh is gardening in the South. We truly are. We've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of credit to our park staff. They are extremely knowledgeable and have a lot of experience and expertise in this. Stormwater, we try to take a little bit of credit because we are funding a lot of these, and we are overseeing the design, the construction, the maintenance, and the inspection of these devices. So over time, we are seeing what is working and what's not working so well. So we've picked up a lot of plant knowledge, but we certainly rely on the expertise of parks. So just to let you know the scale of the work that Parks is doing with plants, just this past year, they treated 42 acres of invasive species. They managed well over 10,000 acres of natural land. They grew 35,000 plants. They have a landscape nursery and greenhouse, actually, and planted 538 trees and helped us maintain over 120 GSI devices. So that's the scale of what we're talking about. And we would be remiss to not mention the 12,000 volunteers from the community that help us achieve this. So again, this is a team effort, and we cannot do it without each and every one of you. And this is our goal. You know, I think many of you have seen like those stormwater devices, like a stormwater pond behind a fence, tucked behind a large big box store, probably neglected and unmaintained. We don't want that type of stormwater management anymore. We want to bring stormwater to the forefront. We want to show that this can be a celebrated community amenity that we can share with our community members. This is GSI. There are constructed wetlands here at Wootton Meadow Park. There's a daylit stream. You'll see a lot more about this park later. It's a very passive, natural type of park. In comparison or in contrast, have you all been to the Rose Garden? So it's very manicured there. You might not even know that there's a GSI device there, but in 2020, we planted one there, thanks to park staff. You can see that basin collecting the stormwater. 3 years later, you would not even know. You just think that's a beautiful manicured landscape. So that's kind of what we want. We want it in the forefront, but if you want it to blend in, we can make that happen too. Overall, we want it to provide all the benefits and to look good and have it welcome to the community. And we just want you to know that we, again, are working hard to make sure that these are maintainable, that they're sustainable, and that we're using the lessons we're learning and implementing that in the ground. So we have worked together in classrooms. We go out in the field. We've come up with plant lists. If y'all are interested in that, Neal's going to go into some of the specific plants we use, but those are available to you if you'd like to request those. We even have these different types of planting palettes we're trying to develop to take out to the community. You know, do you like a more manicured look? Do you want a more naturalized look? Do you just want things that look like grass? But we don't want turf grass. We'd rather have sedges and rushes. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So that education piece is very important. And I just thought this was funny, y'all. Like some things never change. I saw this picture and I was like, that's me still. So I still enjoy looking at plants and, you know, all that. I do that. It's wonderful. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Neal, who's going to get into a little bit more into the plants.
Hey, everybody. Neal Wisenbaker here. And I got the opportunity to work as the horticulturist for the city for just a few years, and they were able to convince me to come over to the stormwater side of things and start working with plants and green stormwater infrastructure. And I'm really happy to have done that. It's been a really fun entrepreneurial type project starting this new program up for the city of Raleigh. So welcome to North Carolina. There's a lot of diversity here, both diversity in plants, people, and also our landscapes. And just to highlight that, I pulled up this picture here of the ecoregions of North Carolina. And I wanted to point out a couple of, let's see, don't press that button. There we go. There's a little pointer there. You know, here we are in Raleigh right here, and we've got this very interesting big black line right here, which is called the fall line. That's the transition between the Piedmont of North Carolina and the coastal plain. And you can go just, 50 miles to the east, and your soil will completely change. You know, we'll go from this clay, kind of rocky soils that we have in Raleigh to very productive agricultural lands, deep sandy loams over there. So the plants change wherever you go in Raleigh, or in North Carolina, I should say. And I just want you to understand, there's also this very interesting zone right down here. That's the sand hills of North Carolina, if you've ever been there. There's a longleaf pine ecosystem in this region. And it's sort of it's a rare habitat, and you should go and check it out. So I just want to tell you that there's a lot of interesting nuances in our landscape. So when you say, you know, what is native? Well, you can start to talk about the details of our wonderfully diverse state and kind of what grows where, and start to do that exploration. Another area I'm really interested in up here is the Soratown Mountains. That's a Pilot Mountain and Hanging Rock area, and you'll find plants there that you've never seen before. It's just amazing. So that's just a little bit about our diversity. If you're looking for resources in our area, I would like to point you to a couple of accessible, easy to find resources. The North Carolina Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox is a great place to start. You can go there and you can search up all your plants that you're looking for your home landscape, and it's a really great tool. They've done a great job with that over the years. If you want to start getting real nerdy, you can get into the flora of the southeastern United States and start to learn about all the 4,000 species. Actually, I think they're up to 10,000 species of plants in this flora that you can be found in the southeastern United States. What makes it even more, this is like a 700-page document. It's kind of beefy, but you can go to the website, and they have a web app, and you can start exploring your area on their website, and it's a lot of fun. And I use it every day. In fact, what I use every day is this app that they made for your phone. I think it costs $19, and it's not a plug for them. They just do great work at the UNC Chapel Hill Botanical Garden, and I want to make sure to share those resources with you. But back to the plants and back to those nuanced conditions around North Carolina, those sands, those clays, those mountains that may be found in the Piedmont. You know, plants are the great interpreters of site conditions. And, you know, even minute changes in soils and moisture will result in different types of plant communities as we look around. So I want to talk about bioretention and rain gardens. This is one of our bioretentions here in Raleigh. And it's this is a linear bioretention. It's surrounded by pavement. It gets hammered with stormwater, which goes into there. It fills all the way up to the top of that curb line right there. It actually completely floods. And then at that point, the water slowly percolates down and it goes into our wetlands. This is at Walnut Creek Wetland Center in Raleigh. So what kind of soil would you expect in this condition? Would you expect it to be wet or dry? Wet, but it's not. It's dry. It's really dry. We use a bioretention media, and it's basically sand with a little bit of compost in it, a little bit of pine bark fines in it, and not compost, pine bark fines, and it becomes kind of dry situations actually. So I'm starting to think to myself, I'm like, all right, well, what kind of plants like that condition where they get flooded and then get dry? And I'm starting to think about the coastal plain of North Carolina, right? And I'm starting to think about those areas. So, just bringing up Eutrochium dubium or our coastal Joe Pye weed. It's a really short Joe Pye. You can see it right there. It's only about 2 or 3 feet. It's not that it's not that fistulosum, which is like 6-8 feet. You'll find up in the foothills of the mountains of North Carolina and in that west of here. But this Eutrochium dubium is a smaller coastal plain Joe Pye weed, and it's a butterfly magnet. You can see the black swallowtail on there, and the bees on there right there. These guys all hanging out in there, just having a party. And then we throw in some grasses in there too for the color and the texture. And this is Schizachyrium scoparium, a little blue stem. We have one of the most fantastic ornamental grass nurseries right down the road in Rougemont, North Carolina, Hoffman Nursery, and they are world-renowned for their ornamental grass production, and we're really lucky to have them so close by. I threw this one because it's just kind of fun. These are just common plants you'll find in the woods. Like this is nothing from a garden center, I promise you. This is cutleaf coneflower or Rudbeckia laciniata, and I guess I like to call this one green-eyed Susan. There's the black-eyed Susan. You might be familiar with brown-eyed Susan. Well, this is green-eyed Susan. But it's just a big old thug of a plant, and it really spreads around and does its thing. But again, these are just common plants you'll find in North Carolina that you can then take into your landscape and plant. At the City of Raleigh, we had the luxury of actually, I'll skip this slide and go back to it. We actually have a greenhouse facility and nursery, and we grow a lot of these plants. So we'll actually just go out to the woods and collect seed and take them back and grow them and have fun. So one of the plants we do that with is milkweed. And we grow lots of milkweed because Asclepias tuberosa, or butterfly weed, is the sole host plant for the monarch butterfly. And the monarch butterfly depends on this plant for its survival. And so we try to grow lots and lots of that. And this is not the tropical milkweed. This is our native, roadside ditch milkweed, okay? This is the stuff that people cut with weed eaters all day long. And what we really need, we need more weedy areas in our cities and in our homes, and it's great for the bugs, and it's great for the butterflies. So yeah, that's some of our production there. You can see us growing these milkweeds. That's not many, that's like 700, but we're up to like 1,500 now. It's really unreliable from seed, but we do try to get a lot of it out there. It's hard to buy this in a garden center because it tends to be really like it falls apart. This plant doesn't do well in containers production. So we try to get them small and get them out into the landscape. But once they're in the landscape, they actually can live for quite a long time. Even though they get ravaged by wildlife and insects, they eat them down to the ground. And people say, what's wrong with my milkweed? It's supposed to. It's a wildlife plant. So we do this, and we have we put up these monarch way stations around this to educate the public about the importance of monarch butterflies and their connection to our landscapes. So that was kind of dry, occasionally flooded lands. So let's talk a little bit about wetlands, because we do a lot of constructed wetlands as well. And it's kind of nice to see in these in this cross section. And that's kind of how I'll organize the next bit. But you might have open water, like a deep pool, and then you maybe get a little bit shallower. Then you have this like kind of wet land, right? Wet land, right? Okay, all right. I think one of my favorite haikus, I think, is stormwater wetland. I'm working on that one. But so you might have these zones where it becomes occasionally flooded or the water's only a few inches deep. And then, you get them to your uplands and then you're above that. So you can kind of imagine that in your head, right? So I'm going to organize the plants a little bit like that. So this is Wootton Meadows. It's one of our constructed wetland parks in Raleigh, North Carolina. And please go out there and visit and check it out. Heather had some great pictures of it, and it's a great place to go observe birds. And it is really full of wildlife right in the middle of the city. And so it's a real honor to be able to work with these landscapes that have more than just one function, right? They have multiple functions. And that's what we try to do. The American water lotus, did you know we have a water lotus? There it is. It's a native water lotus. And it grows really well in the deep pools of Wootton Meadows Park. I had to mention taxodium. This is a tree that grows in the swamps, right, of North Carolina. You all seen taxodium, bald cypress, right? You've seen bald cypress, and they grow in the deep pools. But did you know that bald cypress are some of the oldest trees on the planet? In fact, if you look here, the oldest known living trees, bald cypress, number 5 in North Carolina, 2,600 years old. One tree. Are you serious? Yes, we're talking 3,000-year-old trees in the Black River of North Carolina. You can go there if you don't mind walking in the water, or maybe you'll bring a kayak. It's a good way to do it. And you can go and explore these flooded swamps and see these trees. And what I like about these trees is look how beat up they are. I mean, this is a 3,000-year-old tree, y'all. It is beat up. It has seen everything. This one is like a grandmother. It's named Methuselah. And I took that like doing a panoramic, but vertically. I didn't know you could do that. But if you think about this, a tree's been in that swamp for 3,000 years. That means the conditions that it's been growing in have been the same for 3,000 years. That's a lot to get your brain wrapped around. And the thing is that swamp has been there in that time period. The conditions of development around that swamp have been as such for 3,000 years. This is incredibly valuable, resilient, and vulnerable all at the same time, right? And so we have to be really careful about how we manage our stormwater in the city of Raleigh so that we're preserving these landscapes. And how bad would it feel if you mess this up, right? Okay, shallow water, like the next kind of step out of the deep pool here. If you haven't seen Cephalanthus occidentalis or buttonbush, I mean, this is a very common little shrub that you'll find growing on the sides of the ponds. And it's got these Sputnik-like blooms, and each one of these has a little drop of nectar on the end of it. And the bees go nuts for this stuff, and they are incredible. Very common plant. This is not a cultivar. This is not unusual. It's everywhere. You just have to look. Juncus effusus, very common plant. It's our soft rush. We use it all the time in our bioretention devices. It's so tough. It's so easy to get sort of green vertical elements into your landscape so easily. You can't mess this up, people. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to cut it back. You don't have to do anything. And I wanted to mention cattails because cattails are a native plant, right? And cattails we all remember them from our childhood, and they have a lot of importance in our collective memory. And they're an important food source for Native Americans. But cattails are problematic in our constructed wetlands because they can form monocultures in those constructed wetlands, and it creates habitat for mosquitoes. So there's good research coming out of NC State University, and it shows, the presence of cattails really does encourage mosquitoes. So I don't like mosquitoes. They are pollinators. They really are, but I don't like them. Here's a really cool shrub that you will find in our wetlands, and that is Sorilla racemiflora, or the tie-tie bush. Have you guys heard of tie-tie? And this is a great, just pollinator magnet. These blooms are just really, I'm surprised I don't see any bugs on this picture right here. They just are magnets for pollinators. Terrible picture, I'm sorry, but I really wanted to show you where the tie lives, and you can see it lives on that little hummock this is Robertson Mill Pond, a Wake County park, just in Wendell. I mean, it's like 30 minutes away. And you can get in a kayak and you can take a kayak trail all around this park, and there's numbered markers all along the way. Really cool park experience. But yeah, that's the tie that gets that great color in the winter, oranges and yellows. And terrible picture, I apologize, but I wanted to show you where it lives. We walk along our greenways in Raleigh. We have 120 miles of greenway in the city of Raleigh that we maintain as the Parks Department. And this is all along the shorelines of the rivers. This is Chasmanthium. It's river oats. Adrian says, oh my God, don't plant that because it spreads like crazy, guys. But it does help to stitch together our stream banks and hold them together. And yeah, when they're backlit like that, they look pretty amazing, right? What a great common plant. Asclepias incarnata, this is the swamp milkweed, and you got to plant this thing in some wet soil. It needs to be wet. It does not do well if it dries out. So, but monarch butterflies, again, just love it, and they just go crazy over it. I'm not sure how many Asclepias we have in North Carolina in our area, but there's several of them, so it's worth exploring the milkweeds. Pensimon digitalis, I like this one because it's from one of our GSI devices here at Glen Eden Park. I like it because we can just throw the seed out onto the ground and it just comes up. I mean, it's like you don't have to do anything. It's a really prolific seeder, and it does well for what we need it to do. And yeah, bumblebees just love it and they go crazy over it. Pycnanthemum uticum, if you want like kind of a starter pollinator plant, this is probably the one to get. And it's our mountain mint, and that's a wasp there pollinating it, and it is a real bee magnet. You can find this stuff all over the place. Like if you just walk in the woods, you'll find pycnanthemums, different species all over. And one of the things that you can really tell is that sort of dusty appearance on the leaves there, that sort of, it looks like a white powder. That's actually the hoary bit of hoary mountain mint. If you knew it, have you ever heard of horehound candy? It's like an old-fashioned candy, and you look at those. They're like brownish black, but they have this white dust all over them. I guess to keep them from sticking together. And that's the hoary bit of that. Is that little bit of powder? So that's just kind of interesting. An interesting old word. A hoarfrost is another example of that word being used. This is the marbled salamander. I didn't take this picture, but I wanted you to see like when they got cleaned up, what they look like. They're really attractive. That's a state salamander in North Carolina. And we found this little guy sitting in that bioretention there. Isn't he cute? But he's real dirty. He got kind of messed. He's wondering what the heck's going on, and we're just cleaning up around there and taking care of stuff. So, so thank you all, and just thanks for letting me share some plants with you guys.
All right, hello. So we're going to kind of transition from the types of plants that we use in GSI and nature-based solutions to how we use those plants as tools for community connection through education and outreach. Let me see if I get this right. Perfect. All right. So when you guys are exploring outside, maybe at the Arboretum after our presentation, or maybe at one of our GSI sites, you're constantly making observations. You might notice the temperature. You might notice if it's raining. Maybe you'll hear some bird calls. And so we look to community science a lot to gather these observations because they're not only helpful for us as individuals as we explore natural spaces, but they're also helpful for us to understand how our GSI is functioning. So I see a gentleman with an iNaturalist hat over there. So all of these images were submitted on iNaturalist. So when we look at how our GSI is supporting wildlife and our pollinator communities that Neal was just mentioning, iNaturalist and other community science apps are really helpful ways to do that. And while we're looking at these plants and wildlife communities, community science is a great tool for bringing our human communities together. So has anyone here heard of a BioBlitz before? Yeah? couple people. So BioBlitzes are where you select a specific location for a certain amount of time and you open up a project. We use iNaturalist usually, and people can come by and submit data whenever works for them. But it also is a great tool to bring people together. So when we have BioBlitzes, this is a recent one at Wooten Meadow Park on a exceptionally rainy day, like it's torrential downpour. But as you can see, we had some dedicated volunteers who came out and collected data with us. A lot of these people didn't know each other before they came, but they were sharing different species that they found. Someone found a marbled, or I think some type of salmon, I can't remember which type. But community science, using plants and the wildlife that benefits from them, is a great way to make these community connections. And if it sounds like a fun event, we have one coming up at Walnut Creek Wetland Center, where Neal found that cool marbled salamander in late September, with an in-person event on October 1st. So that will be a fun event.
Dori,
Yeah.
Those pictures you just showed before, what were they all found?
This was at Wooten Meadow Park as well. So yes, sorry, I should have said that. These were all Wooten Meadow Park. This was not from the BioBlitz. This was before then, but just a great example of the different types of wildlife that benefit from our GSI. And another community science initiative that we have is our GSI visual monitoring program. So has anyone heard of this before? Yeah, one person, the leaf and limb. Awesome. All right, so when you're visiting Glen Eden Pilot Park, Walnut Creek, or Wooten Meadow Park, there's a good chance that you'll see a sign that's about this tall and has a stand where you can put your phone and it's facing GSI. And as people come by, they can take pictures of this GSI from the same angle over time. And so that program started a few years ago. And since it started, across our 3 sites, we have almost 150 images that demonstrate how our plants grow and change over time. So this is just from Glen Eden Pilot Park, but we can see how our plants do in the winter. They're kind of dormant, start to come back in the spring, and we have a full bloom by June. So this is really helpful to see how our GSI and our plants grow seasonal, how seasonal changes affect them, how they might adapt year to year, if there are any maintenance needs that we need to tell our maintenance crew about, and help inform our stormwater staff about any lessons learned for any future GSI projects. In addition to photos, people can also submit written comments. So if you saw a cool bird that you want to tell us about, if there was any trash on the ground that we might need to let parks know about, or just how it benefited your day. I know we have had a few comments of people who said that they were working inside all day. This was a great reason to come out, go for a walk, help us collect some really valuable data, and reconnect with nature in an urban space. And if you want to see these changes over time, we have our GSI visual monitoring story map. So each park with a visual monitoring station, like you said here, Wooten Meadow, Glen Eden, and Walnut Creek, each has that story map where you can scroll through, you can see how our plants change seasonally. I update it monthly pretty much. You can also get background information on each of the parks, talk about the daylit stream that Heather was mentioning earlier at Wooten Meadow. And it's a great tool for our community scientists to see their data in action. And it's a great educational tool for our younger audience as well to kind of see how our plants grow and change over time. So speaking of our younger audiences, Heather and I work in the water quality section. And so we're constantly talking to people about water quality, and plants are a big part of that. I hope you have gathered that from our presentation so far. So whether that's talking to little kids about how plants and wetlands are like nature's sponges, they absorb our stormwater and the water that leaves them is cleaner than it was, all the way up to our Capture It art contest, where we ask high school and middle school students to create artwork and videos about water quality. And they interpret that in a lot of different ways. But this year we got a lot of submissions of people highlighting how plants benefit water quality. So if you can't see it, there's 2 kids who are picking up trash, doing some environmentally beneficial behaviors, and planting a tree right next to a stream. So it is a great way to see how these students are making these connections early on as young adults. And this was a finalist in our contest this year, and we'll have more news on that in November for our upcoming contest. And so this is one of my favorite programs. This is a more hands-on approach to plant education for young adults, but it is our Rain Garden Apprenticeship Program. So we work with Urban Sustainability Solutions, which is a local nonprofit, to provide teachers with workshops and trainings all about GSI, specifically rain gardens for the most part. They are paid. They attend a paid workshop and receive their rain garden certificate from the NC State Extension Office. This is our teacher's most recent visit to a recently completed rain garden. Once they finish the workshop and are confident in their abilities to teach GSI, they work teach about GSI. They work with Urban Sustainability Solutions to lead an apprenticeship program for high school students. So our high school students attend in-class or virtual lessons about stormwater runoff, GSI, how plants benefit our stormwater management. And all of that culminates in them either installing GSI through our Raleigh Rainwater Awards program, which I'll talk about in a minute, or maintaining GSI with Neal's GSI maintenance crew. So this is one of our most recent cohorts from the spring. Do you guys remember that linear bioretention that we've shown a couple times? Our students planted those. So yeah, so it doesn't look as great as bountiful as it did in our pictures earlier right now, but our students do a really incredible work to help maintain, improve, and add new GSI to our program. So it's a great program to enhance environmental literacy in our students and teachers, provide some new engineering skills, and just great professional development opportunities all around plants and GSI and stormwater. And it's not just students and K through 12 students that benefit from stormwater education. You guys are all here today. So if you walk away from our presentation and are really excited to learn more about GSI, we have more that you can learn about through our rain garden and rain barrel workshop, which I should have added a date, but we have one coming up this fall on September 27th, where you can get really in depth with how to install rain gardens and rain barrels on your own property. Ask us, me and my colleague who manages the program, any questions that you may have. And we provide resources, some of which I'll talk about in this presentation, but even more that we have that are available to participants. We also have stream bank repair workshops. So this is kind of different than what we've been talking about through GSI with our constructed wetlands and our rain gardens. But as I'm sure many of you are aware, all those plants that buffer our streams and our rivers are really crucial for maintaining our floodplains, reducing erosion. And so our stream bank repair workshops, you can see here, we have these live stakes where people will go in, insert these live stakes into the bank of a stream. And those are live plants. So eventually they'll grow. Those root systems will help stabilize that landscape and prevent erosion, protect our floodplains, and help with water quality because erosion and sediment is one of our primary pollutants that we address with Raleigh Stormwater and throughout the whole state. And I always want to mention that education and outreach doesn't just happen in the classroom or in a workshop. It also might happen at home. So we have several different resources, or if you want to bring GSI and nature-based solutions back home to your property, that you can do so. So kind of in the same vein as our stream bank repair workshops, we have our Buffer Builder Bag program, where residents can receive a bag of 20 to 25 seedlings of native plants. I know Neal mentioned the button bush, so hopefully you remember that one, but I'm sure he'd be happy to talk about any of these other plant species. I'm not an expert in them, unfortunately. But it's a great program to help reduce erosion, protect our floodplains, like I mentioned, with our stream bank repair. And that is managed with our drainage assistance team by Dominic Smalls. And one of our big popular programs is the Raleigh Rainwater Awards program. So if you're a resident of Raleigh and you want to bring a rain garden, a cistern, or other type of GSI to your property, which I'll show another picture in a second, this is a cost share program where you can receive 75 to 90% of cost share following the installation of a GSI project. There is a subsidy program too if you meet certain eligibility requirements where we can cover 100%. But you work with the city, you receive a free consultation from stormwater staff. And this is an example of a rain garden from that program. So you can see in action how effective they are at capturing that first 1 inch of rainfall. And they're pretty pretty too. You can get a pretty cistern if you want to do. All right, and so these are a few more examples. So like I said, it's not just rain gardens and cisterns. We also have permeable pavement. They're also great educational tools. If you have ever seen a sign like this in the city of Raleigh, that is an example of a Raleigh Rainwater Awards project. And I also want to highlight that when I was talking about that apprenticeship program earlier, when students are installing new GSI projects, it's through this program. So while education is not just happening at your home, you can also bring students in and teachers, if you're interested, to help install those Raleigh Rainwater Awards projects. And I always want to mention that it kind of creates a ripple effect. When you bring GSI to your home or your property, you tell your friends about it, you tell your families, your neighbors will see this cool sign that you have. And it really just helps spread the good message of GSI and nature-based solutions. But that is most of what we have for you. We just want to make sure to bring everything together. So I might hand it off to Heather to close us off.
All right. I hope y'all are inspired. You can tell we get so excited about this. We're so lucky we get to do something that we believe in so much, and we have so much fun doing it. So, but yes, as we've mentioned throughout this entire presentation, we can only do what we're doing through your support. So if you live in the city of Raleigh, your stormwater utility fees are funding this. We really appreciate the support of our mayor and our city council, our stormwater management advisory board. They are pushing this from a groundswell of motivation as well as the top down. So, and then our residents, the students, we're all part of this together. So yeah, I think that's it. There's plenty of information on our website. If you want to continue looking up, we're going to be here to answer questions. But again, that Raleigh Rainwater Rewards program, one of our most popular programs, it's very generous, and we don't own that much land comparatively. So we really do need private developers, private residents to bring these practices to your home. But yes, we are here, and I hope we made time. Is that 41 seconds left? Yeah. All right. Perfect. That's amazing. We nailed it. All right. Well, thank you for your time, everybody.